Y'all remember when they said that the New World wasn't a game, and compared to the first half of the Grand Line that the New World was on a completely different level? Oh, they weren't lying. It's because there's so many powerful individuals that reside in the New World, specifically the Yonko. And I think a common thing, at least from my perspective, is I don't really think of the Yonko like that, and that's probably because we haven't really seen them that much. So it's been really refreshing that we're seeing them more in action and more involved in the story. And it could also be because we see the story from the Straw Hats perspective, and ever since we saw them for the first time truly suffer despair, truly lose at Sabaody, did we really expect them to lose again, or at least like they did back then? I'm gonna say no, and I guess technically for Luffy's sake you can argue either Katakuri or Kaido, because the story puts emphasis that those were mountains that Luffy had to overcome with Future Sight, with Ryo and Advanced Conquerors. But it's kind of hard to really judge Luffy and the Straw Hats because they're the main characters, because they'll technically have plot armor until Oda's ready for them at least not to be used or necessary in the story anymore. And I can only speak for myself, but any form of tension, struggle, or despair, even though it exists, I just don't necessarily feel it for them because I know that everything will be alright. Instead, I think we have to look at other characters to truly get that feeling of despair, of sorrow, because they don't have nearly as much plot armor as the Straw Hats. But yeah, the New World has definitely been crazy, and there's a couple of events that have happened recently that I want to talk about in this video. I think the first example we could talk about is the Reverie, because technically, even though Sabo, he's talking about everything with the Reverie flashback after some events, technically this event did happen first. Everything that happened at the Reverie includes the Admirals versus the Revolutionaries, the reveal of the Gorosei, who they actually are, because technically, even though we found out exactly what they are at Egghead, it happened during the Reverie. So like finding out that the Gorosei, you know, they have a Gookie, a Sandworm, a Fink Sea, etc. And even the fact that Emu could transform, that's something that was revealed in the anime. Sabo, he experienced this all first. Heck, he even mentioned that he didn't expect to experience hell during the Reverie. So the Gorosei, Holy Knights, and the Admirals, they all reside on the Red Line, which is technically a part of the New World. At Egghead, there's the whole Saturn situation with Figurlin Garling taking over, and Emu has the power to get rid of a Gorosei, someone who is able to fight against Gear 5th Luffy. The Revolutionaries, they're going to have a role in the final war, but we've rarely seen them, at least up until this point in the series. We saw Dragon at Logtown, we saw the Revolutionaries interact and help Robin, as well as what they did in the Lucia whenever we were introduced to the four captains. So them being and residing mainly in the New World because they're currently on Kimabaka Kingdom, that just shows another faction that is strong and dangerous that resides in the New World. And out of the title, it talks about the Yonko, and I'll get to them, but I thought that I should give the Revolutionaries, the world government, credit and just talk about them a little bit, because I don't think that as a community we talk about them nearly as much as we should. But let's talk about the Yonko, because holy crap, remember after the Straw Hats left Egghead, they asked Saturn for permission to chase them to Elbaf. That wasn't the only time. Lucci, he technically needed permission to engage in combat with Luffy. It's just they hate each other so much that it was on sight. Or Blackbeard, whenever he was at Amazon Lily, permission is needed because of the amount of influence the Yonko have. If the Marines engage with them in combat, it could cause and spark an entire war. Hence why Marineford was such a big deal, because Whitebeard, you know, he was a Yonko and he showed up with his allies, and no, Whitebeard, he didn't stand a chance, and he knew it was going to be a losing battle, but Marineford was just a taste of what everything the world government has at its disposal, and yet Whitebeard, he still fought that losing battle. This is also why Garp went with Sword to attack Hachinosu, since they're technically on paper not affiliated with the Marines anymore. But when it comes to engaging with the Yonko in surviving in the New World, you have two options. You either serve under them or you to end up fighting them. And obviously there aren't going to be some individuals that serve under Yonko no matter what, because that's just not the type of people they are. So I don't want to do Kid or Law dirty or anything, because when they fought against Yonko one-on-one, they got obliterated. They really got folded. But if we look at the series in totality, then Kid and Law, they will probably be in the top 1 to top 5% in terms of strength. And are their bounties a little bit high? Yeah, I think there's, you know, room to argue that they got a little bit of a boost, but there aren't many characters in this series that are strong enough to beat Kid and Law. These individuals, they are strong. They just ended up going against the wrong person. Honestly, this kind of reminds me of the whole Jogo Sukuna situation that happened in Shibuya. Even though they lost, it would still be a disservice not to give them any credit, because they definitely deserve it. But no matter how much credit that I'm going to give them, the fact still remains, they got the dog snot smacked out of them in the new world. But if you guys have made it this far into the video and you're enjoying the content, let me know by leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video. I pump out different content all the time. Dude, and before I even talk about Shanks versus Kid, I want to talk about the first time that Kid entered the new world and he actually got destroyed by Kaido. Kid and Killer, they didn't submit, and Kid was thrown in jail trying to break his spirit while Killer had to eat a smile fruit. His fate definitely wasn't as generous, because when Shanks went against him, he definitely wasn't as merciful. Shanks was just messing around, wasn't really taking stuff seriously until he used his future sight and saw the potential damage from Kid's damn punk, and oh, Shanks, he put a stop to that real quick. One shot at him. Honestly, Kid was embarrassed. Y'all can call him Captain Mid all you want, but he just challenged the wrong person. Have Kid challenge 95% of the verse. He definitely beats them, no question. Hate on Kid all you want, but I feel like in this situation, we just gotta give Shanks the credit, because he's just built different. From what we saw in the fight with Law and Blackbeard, Law did and tried his best against him. He definitely successfully damaged him, and Blackbeard didn't leave the fight unscathed. But Blackbeard's crew compared to Law was definitely in a better position. The Polar Tang was destroyed, and all we know is that Law and Beppa escaped together. I will say, what makes this worse for Law is that Blackbeard, he didn't even have his whole crew with him. And some might argue that because Blackbeard has a history of jumping people and that this fight wasn't a 1v1, it's a battle against pirates. I don't know why people would necessarily get upset with that, but even if it was a 1v1, Blackbeard is so broken that Law wouldn't have even defeated him, even if it was a 1v1. Blackbeard was so impressive here. The fact that he took down a supernova that just defeated Big Mom and has a 2 billion berry bounty. This is a more recent event and kind of what inspired this video. We know the whole story of Bartolomeo burning down Shanks's flag. He wanted to do it in order to spread Luffy's name, and he was ignorant to the fact that Luffy and Shanks have such a close relationship. Burning down Shanks's flag, Bartolomeo suffered consequences. I actually have no clue why Bartolomeo stayed here. Maybe he thought because Luffy has the title of an emperor and Bartolomeo is claiming that he's serving under him, that Shanks wouldn't just walk up on an emperor's subordinate, because you know, it would cause and spark different drama, different consequences, different potential future battles. I don't know, but Bartolomeo stayed here and he got folded. I will say this is interesting because we don't know exactly who beat up Bartolomeo. We just know that they did it and they were fast enough to do it before he could put up his bear, because in the past, and I'm not saying that Odin is stronger than Shanks, but Odin isn't a slouch. He ended up and tried to attack Orochi, who was protected by somebody using Bartolomeo's fruits. So the fact that Odin, who was able to scar Kaido, couldn't even break through the barrier, that only could mean that someone attacked Bartolomeo before he could put it up. Whether it's Shanks, whether it's been Beckman, Yasop, we don't know, but it doesn't even matter, because after this, Bartolomeo, he apologized to Shanks, he fled, and Yasop destroyed his ship, just showcasing, hey, we have to do this and we're on demon time. Not just the fact that Bartolomeo was beaten up or the fact that his ship was destroyed, something stood out to me was the fact that I think as a community that we look at the Yonko more for their strength, the fact that, and we argue, hey, you know, they can beat X, Y, and Z in a 1v1 instead of how much their strength impacts others, or how much weight that their strengths hold in regards to influence and territories. Because Shanks is so strong, so many people look at his flag as a symbol of protection. So if he were to overlook the incident that Bartolomeo caused, he would lose faith and trust with his allies and his friends. And we know it's canonically stated that Shanks, he has the weakest allies. And this isn't the only time that we've seen a Yonko or an island use a Yonko's flag for protection. We saw it with Fishman Island, how at first it was Whitebeards, then it was Big Moms, and we can speculate that eventually it's going to be Luffy's flag. And the same with Wano. Green Bull talked about how even though Kaido was a bad person, the fact that his name was there, it deterred a lot of enemies, and now Luffy, his flag, is going to give Wano protection. I'm really glad that with the final saga, we're starting to see the Yonko more in action, and that they're not just all talk. Not saying that they were or anything like that, it's just that they've been hyped up for so long. I believe ever since Garp talked about them at Water 7 / Ennis Lobby, that I've been waiting to see them do something. And with the final saga approaching, and you know, different individuals are starting to make plans. Heck, Blackbeard even talked about the Yonko going after the poneglyphs. They're going to have to fight and even try to kill each other in order to receive that information to go after the One Piece. That it's just so cool that Oda's finally starting to showcase the strength and the influence that the Yonko have. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know who your guys' favorite Yonko is in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. It's on the screen and in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.